A few words about press freedom in China. With all of these journalists coming to China and with the explicit promise to actually allow full freedom for journalists to report, and it really creates a wonderful opportunity. And in fact, the Chinese government, as part of its commitments to the International Olympic Committee, even went so far as to change its law on press freedom. So that in the past, if you were a foreign correspondent working in Beijing, if you wanted to interview anybody, you needed to get foreign ministry permission to do that. And that was a very onerous and not very popular law. It was also ignored quite a bit, which meant that journalists went around breaking the law all the time, which is also not a very good thing to do. So in January of 2007, they're called temporary regulations on media freedom went into effect. And this allows, it creates a system where foreign journalists, in fact, have a lot more freedom than Chinese journalists do. This law does not apply to Chinese journalists. So I think one of the important possible reforms and maybe durable positive outcomes from the Olympics could be if these freedoms are both extended. Right now, the new press freedoms expire in October of 2008. But if these freedoms could be made permanent and extended beyond the Olympics, that would have a very positive effect. It would probably increase the amount of positive press coverage the government gets, because journalists who are not obligated to get permission for interviews may give a more positive view. But it will also, if these freedoms could be extended to Chinese journalists, this would, on the one hand, it will eliminate this quite unfair two-tier system that exists now in China, and also have the effect of liberating the Chinese media. You've already seen from Tom Crampton's video how the many interesting and lively things that are available on the internet today in China. It's certainly the case that there is much greater scope for freedom in the media, and the self-interested argument that I would make to the Chinese government is, of course, if you have gumshoe investigative reporters, Chinese reporters, who are uncovering things like poisoned pet food or corruption scandals, then those things will have much less of a potential to explode in a large negative way in the international press. So you could actually use the domestic Chinese media to surface a lot of the problems, which would have the effect of enhancing social stability. And social stability, like responsible power, is one of those phrases that you will hear very often from Chinese leaders.